And another nice, beautiful day, except you can't go out too much with the smoke. So yeah, I guess this is samsara. Things are happening every day somewhere, especially now in California. You see such a bad situation there. Anyway, so we'll start as usual with a mindful breathing exercise, meditation to quiet our mind, and follow by trying to generate good intention, motivations. Okay. Try to bring your attention to the breath, watching it mindfully as we inhale and exhale. And then we can try to reflect, contemplate. If we observe our own mind and our state of being, we always have some expectations about things in our life, about how our life should be, how the world should be. So we have a lot of expectations all the time. On individual level, as well as on global level. And when those expectations are not met, we are disappointed, impatient, frustrated, and unhappy. And when we are unhappy ourselves, full of impatience, frustrations, disappointment, unhappy, we tend to be more mean, more unkind, towards others. On the other hand, if we can let go of all of those expectations, we will be less disappointed, less impatient, less frustrated, less unhappy. And we will be able to find more peace, more joy in our life. And when there's more peace, calm, joyfulness in our life, we tend to be more kind, compassionate, understanding, caring for others. And more easy to do that. And therefore, it is quite clear, for more happiness of ourselves and others, is not to have too much expectations. And to be able to learn to accept and be happy with whatever manifests, arises in our life. And to be able to do that, we need to practice, and that's why we're trying to study, learn these Lojong practices. The method, the practice to do it that way. Everything that we do in our lives, especially all our practice, and particularly coming here together, all of them become cause and conditions to reduce the selfish attitude, self-grasping ignorance, to generate and improve loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and wisdom realizing the emptiness as much as possible. And may all of that become cause and conditions to attain fully awakened state. As soon as possible, thereby liberating all sentient beings, all their suffering and cause of suffering, and leading and guiding them to fully enlightenment. Okay. To the founder, the endowed, unstandard destroyer, the one gone beyond, the fourth destroyer, the complete, perfected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed, unstandard destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dhamma refuge, homage to the Great Sangha, to all three ever devote homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all rams, Adam, in all aspect, with the supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action, perform only perfect virtuous action, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, sea condition, things as such. Through this merit, may all sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the four of false, and be delivered from the samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So shibu ki chung chin me to ta ri ra li si yin de gen ba de sang ge shin du mi de wu wa Yokun namada shin Chubasho Idang Guru Rana Mendala Kaniyatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient. Sangye Jodang Soge Sonam Chanju Padu Dani Dagi Joshegi Besonam Lola Penche Sangye Duva Sangye Jodang Soge Sonam Chanju Padu Dagi Joshegi Besonam Lola Penche Sangye Duva Sho. So for last few months we have been following this particular mind training text by Kadamba Master Geshe Chekawa, 7-point mind training, and within the 7-point, we have finished the first 5 points, and so yeah, and now we have 2 more points, and the 6th point, I think yeah, before that maybe one of the reason, I think one of the main reason why we are always kind of more or less unhappy in our life is because we have certain desire, certain wish, certain wants, and we want everything to manifest in a way that we want, what we want, how we want. That is our where one of the example I kind of like using is like a, your air conditioning controller, whether in a house or the car, whenever you want more, less, whatever, you have the choice and key to do that. And we want that, we expect that in everything in our life. And when we don't have that control and unable to fulfill what we really want, how we want, what we want, then we're not so happy, we always feel something is missing. But it is almost impossible for everything to kind of manifest into the way you want, what you want, how you want, the way you want. It's not possible. And so we are always bound to be unhappy because that is not something possible, For example, in this place, we want to have rain, but you don't want rain when you are out, You want rain, but you don't want the rain when you are out. When you are hiking or when you are walking or when you are whatever, you wish it stopped for now, And so we want everything, I want this now and not later, or I want later, or I want a little bit more or less in everything. And we're trying to have control of everything in that can fulfill our wishes, our wants. And that is not possible. It's impossible, The rain is not going to say, I'm not raining now because you need to be out. The cloud is not going to be out coming just because you need a little bit shade, Or the sun is not going to come because you feel you are a little bit cold, you need a warm. But that is what we want. In our mind, we want everything the way exactly that we want. And that is why, our no matter what happens, our mind is always something not fully satisfied, not fully happy, So instead of that, instead of trying to adjust the whole world and environment, surrounding, according to the needs of our wants, our wish, we just try to adjust our mind, our wish, according to the environment, according to the surrounding. That is possible. We just have to change our mind. One thing. We just have to change one thing. Not everything surrounding us, but one thing, that's our mind. By changing our mind, adjust to whatever situation it is, then we can start to feel more happy, more joy, more satisfactions. And so one of the Lojong practice is to do that, Also same in practice. Sometimes we want everything to be just perfect to be able to practice our Dharma, We want every conditions, all the conditions to come exactly the way we want so we can practice. And we are always waiting for that perfect conditions which never comes. Instead, training our mind, whatever condition it arises, making that as the best condition for practicing Dharma. When you are sick, making it as the best condition to practice the Dharma. When you are healthy, utilizing it as the best condition to practice the Dharma. When you have a lot of resources, wealth, making that the best condition to practice the Dharma. When we don't have so much, so little, also utilizing that to make that as the best condition to practice the Dharma. When it is good weather, we utilize that as the best condition to practice the Dharma. When it is not so great weather, also making it as the best condition to practice. Basically, utilizing whatever circumstances, situations, event that arises, manifest in every different part of our life, anytime, seeing that as the best condition to practice Dharma and utilizing that as the best condition to practice the Dharma. Then we can find every day, any situation, the best condition to practice the Dharma. Instead of hoping, expecting something else, which never comes. And so, and so that is what in the Lojong, that is what in Lojong they describe, training your mind to utilize and make most of whatever situation that we face as a cause and condition to practice the Dharma, to practice the Lojong, to transform into the path, utilize all of those circumstances, situation to reduce the delusion, especially selfish attitude and self-grasping. Utilizing all these situations, circumstances to cultivate and improve and increase loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, mind, and wisdom. Utilizing all circumstance situation to engage in the practice of Tonglen, taking and giving, to increase and improve the bodhicitta mind. So that is all Lojong is about. And so in relation to that, we have kind of finished the first point, and then we are on the 6th point. That is the commitment of the Lojong, the 18 commitments. In Tibetan, it's called Tamsik, Tamsik Jokye. Tamsik, Tam is 2 words, in English is like saying, you know, the word of honor or taking an oath, you know, when you make a promise or oath, you know. Sik means the words and tam is making a kind of promise. Basically, the commitment, the reason why we take a commitment is to maintain our practice and to improve our practice. If we don't make those commitments, you know, when we feel well and good, we practice. And when you don't feel so well, then you don't practice. You know, it's easy not to practice when you don't feel well because you don't have any commitments. But when you have commitments, even when you are not feeling so well, you still continue to do the practice. And that helps us in our practice. Then you continue. There's a continuity in your practice. Otherwise, one day you feel, you know, one day we feel good and we practice. The next day we don't feel good, we don't practice. Sometimes maybe we don't feel good for 1 week and we don't practice. And then there is no consistent and continuity. And without that kind of consistent continuity, it's hard to make a progress. And especially we want to see a good progress, you know. And so that is the reason why, you know, why the commitments are helpful. They are tools and means and to support our practice. So here, when we practice, then there are 18 commitments, you know. And so if you have the text, you know, there's the commitment of mind training. And first three are, you know, training the three general, here is set points or principle, you know, three general points or principle practices. And so those are the first one, don't go against the mind training you promise to observe. So when you engage in the mind training, both sort of a practice, you know, of course, whatever commitment we might have made, you know, when you take a refuge, we have certain commitments. Or if you have taken a lay vows, there are certain commitments. If you are taking both sort of vows, precept, there are certain precepts. And especially someone who have taken it Haishoka Tantra, then they have also tantric commitments or the vows. So whatever commitments that we have taken, trying to observe it, trying to keep it as much as possible, according to our capacity. That is one important factor that we have to keep in our mind. You know, we are not perfect. You know, being aware and accepting that we are not perfect, we are not fully enlightened, and we are trying to be more enlightened, we are trying to be better persons, we are trying to be better human beings, we are trying to engage in the path. At the same time, Also, the reality is we are still imperfect sentient beings with a lot of delusions, mistake. And so therefore, even when we take with the best intentions, with all different commitment that we might have taken, we try all our best according to our capacity, ability, and that is all is trying our best. Sometimes, despite trying our best, sometimes we might not be so successful. And when that happens, being gentle and kind, not being too harsh. Sometimes you see your children or your students, some of them trying very hard to study, trying very hard to be better. But still, you can see, despite they're trying very hard, their struggles. And when you see that, you see they're trying their best, but still there's struggles. Still they make mistakes. Still they are unable to make progress. When you see that, you feel compassion for them. You want to help them more. Because you see, even though they are not making progress so much, even they are making a mistake, but you can see they are trying. They are trying hard. They are trying hard, So you don't be so harsh on that, whether it's your children or whether it's your student, whoever. You don't become too harsh. You don't act too harshly, because they are trying. Same thing. That's how we should treat ourselves, as long as we are trying. So the commitment of Lojong to keep them, one of the main commitment when you do the Lojong is the Bodhisattva path or practice, we make commitment to reduce the selfish attitude. We make commitment to develop loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. We make commitments to help and benefit others, if possible, whenever possible. And when we are able to do that, we make commitment not to hurt and harm others, at least intentionally. So these are the basic kind of Lojong commitments, the Bodhisattva's commitments, the Lojong are Bodhisattva practice. And so trying to keep those commitments as much as possible with the mindfulness and awareness, try and be mindful and aware all the time, how we are responding physically, how we are using our speech, how we are using our mind, what kind of thoughts, emotions that is going in your mind, being mindful and aware of that. And whenever we notice any harmful, hurtful thoughts, speech, act, we try to stop it. We try to transform it. Whenever we notice any helpful, beneficial thoughts, speech, and actions, we try to rejoice. We try to inspire, encourage to continue to do that. and through that, we try to preserve and keep and observe the commitment of mind training as much as possible. So that is, so observing what we have promised, that is the commitment, the Lojong commitments, and all the different commitment that we might have made in relation to our practices, Then second commitments, it says, don't be reckless in your practice. What it means here in this case is, when we practice in the Lojong, we are trying to reduce and overcome the selfish attitudes. That is one of the main things, to reduce that selfish attitude and self-grasping ignorance, and to increase and improve the wisdom and the bodhicitta mind, so that. And then in order to show that we don't have selfish attitude, or that we don't have any self-grasping, sometimes in order to show up that we might engage into, or to show that we are non-selfish, sometimes we might engage in a kind of reckless, such as, not taking care of yourself. In order to impress someone that you are selfless or not selfish, then maybe when you need yourself to take care of yourself, when you need to take a medicine, or sometimes your body needs to take a rest, then you don't do that. You ignore that. You're totally kind of ignoring or neglecting that. And then it just becomes another selfish act, because it's to impress others that you are selfless or not selfish. That is kind of reckless practice here saying, Sometimes, our Dharma, our practice, we do the practice in order to reduce our ego, and then again, practice itself become another ego trip. We are trying to do the practice to reduce the selfish attitude, but in order to show that I'm not selfish, then you don't take care of yourself when you need it. And that is another ego trip, because you want to impress someone that you are not as selfish. It's interesting, how our mind can be very manipulative, And in order to show that, that you have total convictions and believe in karma, then you don't kind of take care of yourself. Oh, if my karma is to get sick, so be it. If my karma is to get healthy, so be it. I don't need to kind of worry about it. I don't need to take care of it. Karma will take care of it. So again, sometimes in order to kind of show that kind of impressions that you have such a strong belief, convictions in the karma, in the dharma, then again, not taking care of yourself, not taking care of your health. That is what it means here by reckless practice here, you know. In order to show up, in order to impress, you know. Yeah. So then we engage in such a reckless practice. And so then instead of being an antidote towards our ego and selfish attitude, it is it serves the egoistic mind, because our egoistic mind wanted to impress and show up, and that is what exactly that is doing. So it doesn't really become antidote towards our egoistic mind, our selfish attitude, but actually it kind of, in a subtle, unseen way, you know, in a manipulative way, is serving that selfish attitude. It is another ego trip. And so therefore that is where it's saying don't be reckless in your practice. That is what it means here. Don't be partial. So that is another commitment. So again, yeah, don't be partial. Always train in 3 general points or principles. So these are the 3 general points or the principles. So don't be partial means when we are trying to engage in a Lojong, you know, we are trying to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind towards all sentient beings, non-discriminating, non-biased, impartial, love, compassion, and bodhicitta towards all sentient beings, you know. And so therefore, when we train in our everyday, you know, we try to not be impartial, you know. So, of course, for us ordinary beings, for the beginner, it's not easy to be able to practice without being impartial, without being discriminating, without being biased. But at the same time, we have to put effort to go beyond that, because we do have potential to go beyond discriminating to undiscriminating, from being to partial to impartial, from being biased to unbiased, from being conditioned to unconditional. Since we do have that potential, and the Lojong practice is to get towards, to lead towards that, so then again, we need to be mindful, and with a mindful awareness, and then again, always observing, and when we see there's a discriminating, bias, partiality, we try to change it. We try to transform it as much as possible. So here, being partial means, you know, being patient with some and being impatient with some others. So that is being partial, you know. If someone who is someone you are very close to, for example, someone you care, someone you love, someone you have strong affections, when they make a small mistake, we can easily forgive. We can be tolerant. Sometimes we make a big mistake. Even when they make a big mistake, we will be able, we are willing to forgive them easily, and we are willing, we practice tolerance or patience. But when someone you do not like, someone you dislike, someone you have problem, conflict, then we don't apply that. They make a small mistake, we cannot forgive them. Forget about big mistake. Even a small mistake, we are unable to forgive them. When we are unable to be patient with them. We are unable to be tolerant with them. That is being here, partial. And so here, when you practice the Lojong, is to practice to be patient with everyone, to forgive everyone, regardless of whoever, what our relationship, you know, whether it's a friends, family, whether it's a stranger, whether it's our enemy. Whenever they make, anyone who make mistake, you know, we practice tolerance, patience, and forgiveness. And if we are able to do that, you know, we help them. Also, we help ourselves because we are not holding those negative feelings anymore in our heart. You know. So it helps the others and oneself. Also being, you know, forgiving and tolerance and patience with animal and not with persons. Sometimes we do that, isn't it? Sometimes I see that some people, they are patient with their pets, but they are impatient with human beings. They can easily forgive their pets if they do something mistake. They find very hard to forgive for the human beings. So again, that is being partial. I'm using this example because sometimes I see that, I observe that. In the text, it says, you know, being patient with the humans harm and not being patient with a spirit or ghost harm, you know. But again, it can be any of those, you know. Same thing, you know, being compassion to, if having a compassion, affections to our dear and near one, and not having same kind of compassion, affection, understanding to a stranger and the enemies. That's a partial. Some people, you know, they can have affections, compassions, understanding to human being and not to animal. Some others, they can have affections, compassion, understanding to animal, not to us and human beings, you know, with different peoples, you know. allergies towards human beings, you know. Sometimes with the way they treat that animal, it looks like they are so kind and compassionate, caring, loving. But when it comes to any human beings, they are totally different, you know. They have totally different kind of reactions. That is being partial, you know. So that is because if we don't train to be impartial, then we cannot grow, you know. We cannot grow. Having affections, being patient, compassion to our near one, dear ones, we don't need so much practice. You know, that comes naturally. Even the animals, you can see that. Sometimes you see, you know, the moms of animals, whether it's a cat, the kid trying to kind of play with the mom, they are so patient. You know, kittens coming and trying to, you know, what you call, pull the mother's tail here and there when the mother is trying to sleep or rest. They keep on, you know, many of them, sometimes kittens, when they have a lot of kittens. And you see how much patient they are. So much patience. You see with also dogs, a lot of animals. When it comes to their children, when it comes to their dear near one, they have patience. They have love, compassion. You know, and so not only we human beings, even the animals have that, and sometimes sometimes maybe they do even better than us, you know. But here, the Lojong practice, the practice what we are trying to do is go beyond that partial patience, that partial love and compassion, and to go beyond that, and so that we can reach impartial love and compassion and patience to all sentient beings. And to reach that, we have to start practicing. We have to start practicing. And so that is where in meditations, we try to extend from our dear to near one to a stranger, and from there to someone, people who have conflict, difficulties, and slowly expanding to each and every sentient beings. That is what we try to meditate and practice. So go beyond that. And so therefore, commitment is not to be too partial in all this practice, but go beyond that. And so that is the third commitment. I think this. Okay. I think, you know, if the animal have same level of our mind, they will be also thinking just like ourselves. The good part is they don't have that, because they do also try to, they are very territorial, you know, just like human beings, you know. They like to protect their territory. They want to make their territory, whether it's cat, whether it's dogs, whether it's all of that. They have a little bit similar attitude in the same way, you know, as long as we have the, I think, as long as we have the selfish attitude, whether it's animal, whether it's human beings, you know, also, I mean, also in animal realms, there is whether it's the male, mostly it's the male who is trying to be the boss and control the rest of the group. And so there is similar kind of attitude, wanting to control, wanting to be the boss to some level, and because of human beings, nature of the mind or the brain and complicating mind, then definitely our mind is a little bit more complicating than the animal's mind, and because of that, then definitely we can do more damage to the world if we want to. Also, we can help more if we want to. There's both, human being can save the world if we want to, whereas animals cannot save if even they want. They don't have that same capacity. And on the other hand, if we want to destroy the world, we have the capacity to destroy it, whereas animal does not have that capacity to destroy the whole world. So again, that is why it is so important to utilize our mind in proper way, because we have this incredible capacity. If we use in negative way, incredible destructions. If we use in a positive way, how much incredible benefit that we can bring to not just ourselves, but to the whole world itself, so many sentient beings. So, and that makes us to be more responsible. And it's like, so therefore that put us in to become more responsible, and not only responsible, but really watching our mind, because in the end, it's our mind that directs us, what we do, and that is why the practice, especially the Lojong practice, is all about mind, changing about, our attitude, and that is so important. So then the fourth one, transform your attitude, but maintain your natural behavior. So as we have mentioned, the essence of the Buddha's teachings, and definitely the essence of the mind training, is to transform our attitude. What does that mean? Before, we have very strong selfish attitude. Everything is done with selfish attitude. It's all about me. It's all about me, my well-being, And first, it always I come the first. Others comes later. It's like, if I have extra, then there's for the others. If I have extra time, then I can help someone else. If I have extra to eat, I can give them. If I have extra to share, I can share them. But first is always me, and I. That is our normal kind of selfish attitude, And when in the mind training, then it comes first is others, Then we started to have cherishing for others. Others become more important, Other becomes a more important, So then it is, we transform the attitude, and from selfish attitude to non-selfish attitude, from selfish attitude, non-selfish attitude of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, cherishing others. So that is the main. From being the attitude of self-grasping, ignorance, to non-self-grasping of the wisdom, realizing the reality. So that is changing and transforming. That attitude is the main practice of the Lojong, the key practice, the essence of the practice. And so while we practice that, and that is something internal, not external, is something internal. It's changing about your mind, changing about your attitude is something internal. While we try to practice that, to change internally from that kind of selfish attitude, non-selfish attitude of cherishing thought for others, loving kindness, compassion, from the attitude of ignorance to wisdom, and that while we try to do that on external behavior, we act as we normal, ordinary beings, and not to show up, our. So again, it shouldn't be that that where we try to show up, showing as you are being so non-selfish, showing as that you are not ignorance, and thereby making others feel bad. We tend to do that, showing up your compassion and then make others feel they are uncompassionate, showing that way that other feels they are so bad, and so it is saying it's not about showing. It's something we try to transform inside the attitude and external behavior. You just kind of general, even though you have changed inside, outside, you don't have to show up so much that you have changed so much. Unless necessary in some cases, if there's some benefit, then of course if it can inspire someone, if it can benefit someone, if it can encourage someone, if it can help someone to, then there's different things, but out of, if not for that, then kind of showing up in your behavior, one, it can become an obstacle to your practice, in long terms, that can manifest as obstacles. And that is why a lot of true practitioners and many of the mass city, there are a lot of people are not aware they were a great practitioner until they're dead or at the time of death, because externally they never show any aspect of them being enlightened and something special. Externally they behave like just ordinary, even not ordinary, sometimes even much more worse than ordinary people, But internally they have become so much enlightened, developed so much, and that is the key, to us. If we don't really watch our mind, we started to study Dharma, we started to study about the Lojong's Mahayana practice, we started to hear a lot about loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, enlightenment, all of that. And maybe we also try to practice a little bit of that. But if we don't watch our mind, then we can become kind of, arrogant and pride. And then, act in a way that make feel others, put others down, those who are not, which we feel they are not compassionate enough, kind enough, make them feel bad. And sometimes I see, in those cases, and it makes people, because you make them feel bad, they become very defensive. Sometimes, when I have friends, some of them vegetarian, some of them non-vegetarians, so when you go to the restaurant, of course, kind of you order whatever you want. But some of my friends who are vegetarian, they make some comment to those non-vegetarians, and then they get hurt, often, and then defensive, because they feel, they know, by being a non-vegetarian, they feel a little bit bad about it already. And now with your behavior or your actions, it makes them even worse. Feel kind of guilt, feel them, they are not kind, make them feel they are not kind, not compassionate. And then it seems they become defensive, And so instead of being open for them to kind of explore in going other direction, then they become more rigid and resistant once they become a kind of defensive in that way. And these are like small kind of, examples that we can see here and there, in every aspect of the life. When you try to present you are moral and they are immoral, because you are moral, ethical, then sometimes we try to make that, and then, it hurts them, hurts them, and when it hurts them, they become more rigid and more defensive, and slowly defensive to offensive. And from there, even at the very beginning, they are a little bit kind of open to become a better. Then they become more rigid and they don't want to let go their point of view, and they hold on that because they felt hurt, basically, not because they feel that is the right. And sometimes we do that too, Sometimes the children do that too. They know they are wrong, but they don't want to give up that. They don't want to acknowledge and say that they are wrong. And we do that too. And because of the way it is presented and the way it is, so therefore, it's very, I think there is a one saying in Tibetan, and the disciplinarian, our teacher, used to repeat that all the time, especially the disciplinary in the monasteries, all the time. There's a saying like, even your view or realizations, as much as, God or highly realized being, your behavior has to be like human beings, So even you have an ability to behave much more divine way, or much more enlightened way than enlightened, even in terms of your realization, but in your behavior, how you show it, you have to show it as a normal human beings. And that is also one way of helping, the way to help more sentient beings. If you behave like a normal, you are able to help them more. Even in monastery, we see that, some teachers, some, when it's naughty, when they meet a naughty student, naughty monks, they behave like naughty. Little bit. So then they gain their trust. And when they gain their trust, then they can kind of guide them. And then they are willing to listen. And then that is how you can help them. But when they treat you, when you treat them, you are immoral, you are unethical, you are naughty. So we already create the distance. And they don't have the trust in you because they feel you have already treated them something distant and treat them that way. So even you have a good advice to say, it doesn't go in their head. It doesn't go in their ear and head, they would not listen. And so therefore, similarly, so because we live in a human realms, and we just have to, externally, we have to behave or should be like normal human beings, instead of showing us as something abnormal human beings, so that, I think this is the kind of okay, we will have a short break. Bad side, instead of looking for the good side as well, positive side. And so I think that is where, so by focusing on others' goodness, positive side, that we try to cultivate respect to others, The more you feel, the more you see the goodness in that person, the more it's easy to have respect for others. The less you see goodness in that person, the more difficult it is to have a respect to that person. And again, in the Lojong training, we train to have respect to everyone, every sentient beings. We train to develop respect to all sentient beings, give respect to all sentient beings. Just imagine, regardless of how bad we are, don't we want to be treated with respect for others? Regardless of what mistake we make, regardless of how bad we are, don't we want to be treated respectfully? How do we feel when someone treats us disrespectfully, look down on us, talk bad about us? How do we feel? Or do you feel, they can do that because I'm bad persons? We don't feel. We feel very hurt, upset, angry. Same way, regardless of how cruel, mean, bad that person is, we have to show respect, treat respect, not put them down, not talk so badly. That doesn't mean that we don't have to take any actions to their harmful actions. We can kind of stand up for injustice, harmful actions. We can stop that. At the same time, still, it can be with respectfully. We can take the same actions respectfully. We can do the same actions without putting the others down. We can do the same actions, without making fun and look them very bad, we can stand up for injustice and for those harmful actions and so on positively. And when not only when we make fun of others, even they are mean and cruel. When we make fun of them, treat them bad and disrespectful, it just shows our own nature. Our own nature. It just shows how unenlightened we are also. It just shows how deluded we are also. And so therefore, so not to try to look for the faults, and that is the key. If we try to look for faults, then you will see more and more faults, more and more shortcoming, more and more that, because you focus on that. So it doesn't help you, it doesn't help the others. It doesn't help anyone. But again, as I said before, out of true compassion, kindness, bodhicitta mind, if you want to help someone, then of course, with that, then we can point out, in skillful way, in whatever way we can find a skillful way, so that they can overcome and improve and progress. So that will be in a different case. So, okay, so I think maybe we'll do the dedications, unless there's any questions. One of the student has that his chat has been blocked, so I don't know. So I don't know whether there's something there. Yeah, I think there is ways. I think I missed the 5 great marks of the trained mind in the 5. Yeah, maybe we can talk next time. But also, this 5 mark, I don't know, because in many versions of the Tibetan, there isn't about the 5 marks, but I think in one version there is about that 5 marks. But most of the 7, in most of the versions of the, there are different versions, and most of the versions there isn't any mention of the 5 marks. Okay, we do the dedications. Yeah. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored, finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all the medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. I think, yeah, maybe we can go a little further. Okay. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all the medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly free from their ailment. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightening sick be afraid and those bound be free. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each others. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparable kind in St. Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who have all the subdue your moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath victorious plotting, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayer, honoring the three Jews, Savior of myself and others, your disciple, please live long. I think there was one question asked because couldn't ask in chat there. How long on rough average does it take karmically average USA and take to reincarnate? Maybe us, I think maybe karmically average USA and take to incarnate. I don't know how long roughly average does it take to karmically average us and take to us to incarnate, I guess. Well, it can be from, our death, from a few minutes to 49 days, average karmically to reincarnate or to take a rebirth. So between, after the death, few minutes or maybe even seconds to 49 days. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone.